Good morning, dear students. I'm happy that I could talk to you after a long time. And I would like to tell you that you need not be worried about the classes that you are missing out. The university and the government will definitely take care of you. And you please take care of yourself, stay at home. And that is what is expected from you to do. And at the same time, please make use of these holidays that you are getting now to prepare for your university examination. So before we had the lockdown, I had explained to you about financial administration. In fact, I'm sure that you remember what is finance. Finance is the science of money. It is the principle and method of obtaining money from those who save money. I don't have to explain to you the importance of finance, the importance of money, because you know about it. You know how far money is important to each one of us. So as far as a business organization is concerned, finance becomes very important because it's required for every activity of the organization. Therefore, financial administration involves four things. I had already explained to you, I am explaining it again just to recall what we have studied so far. The first one is the estimation of the capital. Before we start a business, we will have to estimate and find out how much capital is required for starting the business. So we will be making an estimation about the two types of capital that is required, which I have already explained to you, the fixed capital and the working capital. The fixed capital is used for buying the fixed assets, the land, the building, the machineries. See, these are a few examples of the fixed assets that a business will have to buy before it starts its activities. And working capital is in fact called as the circulating capital. It is called as the rotating capital. And usually we make an estimation of the working capital requirement, say for 3 months. So we are using that money for meeting our day-to-day expenses, maybe buying the raw materials. And we expect that once the goods are sold, we get back the money, and again the money is invested for meeting our recurring needs. So we have to find out the requirement of fixed capital and the working capital. The second thing that we have to do is we have to decide on the formation of the capital structure. Capital structure is the ratio among the various securities that are issued by a company for the purpose of raising capital. We can raise capital by issuing the shares, the equity shares, the preference shares, the debentures. We can take loans from financial institutions. So there are different ways through which we can raise the capital that is required for the establishment of the organization. And this capital structure refers to the ratio among all these securities that are issued for the purpose of starting the business. I repeat, the capital structure is the ratio among the various securities that are issued for the purpose of raising the necessary capital. Let us say that we decide that we are going to raise so much of capital by issuing equity shares, so much of capital through issuing debentures, and so much of money we are going to borrow from the financial institution. Therefore, in the example I told you, the capital structure of our organization will have three components. One is the shares, second one is the debentures, and the third one is the loans that are taken from the financial institution. And the ratio among all these three is in fact called as the capital structure. And the third thing is we have to make arrangements for raising the capital. There is a procedure that needs to be followed by us for the purpose of raising the capital, and the third step is in fact that we decide on how we are going to raise the capital, then go ahead with the formalities that are concerned with raising the necessary capital. And the fourth one is the management of earnings. So to recall what I have told you so far, we decide the amount of capital that is required for our business. Secondly, we will decide how we are going to raise the capital, what are the sources. The third one is making arrangements for raising the capital. So you have raised the capital, you have started the business, and at the end of the year, when the concern makes profit, the problem of management of earnings comes. Management of earnings is a very important aspect of financial administration. The whole profit that is made by an organization cannot be distributed to the shareholders in the form of dividend. Of course, if you give the entire money to the shareholders, that can make them happy. But that is not the right thing, an intelligent thing for a business to do. Before deciding on the rate of dividend that needs to be paid to the shareholders, we have to take certain other important decisions. We have to decide on keeping a part of the profit for meeting certain unexpected expenses. We do not know what sort of expenses are going to come up in the future. Unexpectedly, if such huge expenses come, where are we going to find money for meeting those expenses? It's not the right thing for us to alter the capital structure for raising money then. So the best option that is left for us is, before we decide the rate of dividend to be distributed among the shareholders, a part of the profit will be transferred to the various reserves. A part of the profit will be kept with us to meet the contingencies, the unexpected expenses that may come up in the future. We may have to make provisions for depreciation, and only after doing all these important things, we can decide about the amount of dividend that we will be paying to the shareholders in the form of dividend. So remember that the important aspects of financial administration includes estimation of the capital, formation of the capital structure, making arrangements for raising the fixed and the working capital, and the let us come to the various aspects of management of earnings. The first one being the plowing back of profit. See, the entire profit that is made by the company should not be distributed to the shareholders in the form of dividend. There is no denying the fact that if it's done so, the shareholders will be happy. But that's not the right thing for a business to do. We will have to, or say before distributing the dividend to the shareholders, a part of the profit must be transferred to the various reserves. A part of the profit must be kept with us to meet the various contingencies. A business can never remain the same. A business has to diversify, a business has to expand, and we need money for expanding the business. So to meet the requirements of diversification or expansion of the business, a part of the profit will have to be transferred to the various reserves. And this in fact is technically termed as the plowing back of profit. So plowing back of profit is the process whereby a part of the profit is retained by the organization, retained by the business for the purpose of its expansion and diversification activities. The second aspect is the determination of the profit. We have to correctly determine the profit that is made by the organization. See, we are doing the business with the funds that are provided by the shareholders, and we have a responsibility to inform the shareholders at the end of the year about how their money was used in the business, and also we have to inform them the profit that is made by the business through their money or through the money contributed by the shareholders. So that makes it mandatory on our part. Say the Companies Act also makes it mandatory on the part of the board of directors to inform the shareholders about the profit that is made by the company during the year. It must be presented in the annual general body meeting of the company organized for the shareholders. The second one is dividend can be declared only after knowing the profit that is made by the company. Understand that dividend has to be declared from the profit, and dividend cannot be declared from any other source. In normal circumstances, dividend can be declared only out of the profit that is made by the organization, and therefore if we want to decide the rate of dividend that should be declared to the shareholders, we must be able to correctly calculate the profit made by the business during the year. Then what is very important is that the shareholders would be hoping to know how exactly we use their money in the business, whether the money is properly used in the business, whether the money is intensively used in the business. These are certain aspects that they have the right to know, and we have a moral obligation to inform the shareholders. The operating efficiency also becomes very important here. The shareholders have given us the money, and we are the ones who use that money. It is the profit which is going to be an indicator of how well we manage the business, the operating efficiency of the business, the management efficiency of the business, the managerial aspects of the business, how well we could use the money for the good of the organization. All these things will be reflected from the profit that is made by the business during the year. And see, even the use of capital, how well we utilize the capital in the business, can be known clearly by comparing the profit made by the business with the capital that is invested in the business. See, the entire capital that is invested in the business must be properly used in the business. Otherwise, the problem is that if you are using, say, for example, 75% of the capital that is raised by us for the business, the profit that we get is only for the investment of that 75% of the capital, whereas 25% of the capital remains with us unutilized. But unfortunately for us, when we have to make a comparison of the profit with the capital, we will have to make the comparison between the profit made by us and the capital as per the books, where you find that even if we have made reasonably good amount of capital, when it is compared with the capital as per the books, our rate of profit is less. So what I mean to say is that, see, the profit is the indicator of the intensive use of capital in the business, and we have to inform the shareholders how well we have used their money in the business. And then comes the future expansion of the business. See, a business can never remain the same. A business has to diversify, and that is one reason why we are transferring money for the purpose of diversification of the business. and the profit will give us a clear picture about whether we can go for the diversification of the business. And the money that is being plowed back, if it is used for the expansion of the business, we are not creating any additional burden. If we are going for raising further capital, we are creating a burden by way of paying the payment of the interest. If you are taking loan for the purpose of for the purpose of expanding our business, we will have to pay the interest on the loans. If we are raising capital by way of issuing the debentures, you are creating an obligation to pay the interest on the debentures. But the money that is plowed back belongs to us. It belongs to the business, it belongs to the shareholders, and we are using our own money for the expansion of the business. That means no creation of any additional obligation. We don't have to pay any interest on that. We are using our own money for the future expansion of the business. And then comes the taxation. Taxes will have to be paid, and the taxes are paid on the basis of the profit that is made by us. So if you want to make a correct assessment of the tax that we have to pay to the government, we must be able to ascertain the profit correctly, because the taxes are paid on the basis of the profit. So finding out the profit that is made by us during the year is a requirement for calculating the tax that we have to pay for the business. Thank you. The third aspect is the depreciation policy. Depreciation will have to be charged on the various fixed assets. The term depreciation represents the loss in the value of an asset. When you use any fixed asset for a period of time, there will be a fall in the value of the asset. For example, you buy a cycle today paying 3,000 rupees, and if you try to sell off that cycle after, let us say, 6 months or 1 year, definitely you are going to get a price less than what you paid at the time when you bought the cycle. So it's the case with all the fixed assets. So when you use the asset for a period of time, there is going to be a fall in the value of the asset, which we call as depreciation. And when the asset is used for a period of time, as I said, the value of the asset will fall, and it will finally come to a stage where the value of the asset will become zero, or it is going to be a very nominal amount, which is called as the residual value. And to understand it more clearly, you can take a look at this particular formula. The cost price minus the residual value is the loss in the value. See, you bought a cycle for 3,000 rupees, and you use the cycle for, let us say, 2 years, and the value of the cycle at present is 1,000 rupees. That means the loss in the value is going to be 2,000 rupees. So the companies will have to charge the depreciation on all the fixed assets, and you know about it since you are familiar with the trading profit and loss account and balance sheet preparation. So you show the value of the asset less the depreciation, and then finally the new value of the asset. And when you are using the asset, the value of the asset keeps on coming down, and at the same time the money that you are transferring to a separate account called as the depreciation account gets accumulated. The fourth aspect of management of earnings is the dividend policy. We have to be very careful, we have to be very intelligent in formulating a dividend policy. If you can declare a very high rate of dividend, definitely that will make the shareholders happy, but you will be doing it at the cost of the stability of your organization. So we have to be very careful in deciding the dividend policy. and we have to consider certain factors while deciding the dividend policy of the organization. The first one being the trend of profit. See, if the past trend of the company's profit shows that the company has been making a reasonably good rate of dividend, definitely you can follow a stable dividend policy. But if your profit earning for the last few years are not consistent, if it is keeping on fluctuating, we have to be very careful in deciding on the rate of dividend that needs to be paid. Then if the business is approaching a period of depression, only a conservative rate of dividend policy will have to be opted by us. So the rate of profit earned by the company during a number of years in the past becomes a basis for determining the policy that we have to follow in the case of declaring the rate of dividend. The second one is the reaction of the shareholders will have to be considered. Don't forget that we are doing the business with the money provided by the shareholders, and quite naturally they expect to get a fair rate of return. But having said that, in the case of an organization which is newly started, even if dividend is not declared, the shareholders will be able to understand the fact that a newly established company will take its own time in declaring dividend, and also at the initial stages of the establishment of the company may need more funds for continuing its business. But in the case of a company which is very well established, if the company is not declaring a reasonably good rate of dividend, that is going to have a very bad impact on the shareholders. And the shareholders may not be happy if any company does that, and it will be reflected in the goodwill of the company as well as the market value of the shares of the company. And therefore we have to be very careful in analyzing the reaction of the shareholders before following a proper dividend policy. Then comes the requirement of accumulation. See, if the profit shows that we have enough money to be plowed back for the purpose of expanding our business, that in fact gives us an encouragement to go for expansion. If you are making enough profit, if you are in a position to plow back profit and accumulate profit, or if we are able to go for self-financing the diversification process, that gives us an encouragement to go for the diversification of the business, because we don't have to depend on any outside source. We can go for the expansion of the business with our own money, the money generated by us, the money that is kept away from the profit by us, and that money can be used for the expansion and the diversification of the business. And then we have to consider the type of industry. If the nature of the business is such that the earnings are going to be more or less certain and regular, we can follow a consistent dividend policy. I repeat, if the nature of our business is such that our earnings are more or less certain and regular, that gives us the confidence to go for a consistent dividend policy. Whereas if our earnings are uncertain, if you are not very sure about the earnings, if you expect fluctuation in the earnings, then you have to go for a very conservative dividend policy. So the type of industry also will become an important factor in deciding the dividend policy that we have to follow in the case of our organization. Dear students, it's after a long time that you are listening to me. And when we were in a classroom, it was easy for me to know your reaction from your face. Looking at your face, I could easily find out whether you correctly follow me or not. but the circumstances have forced me to reach you through this online media. So I am not in a position to really understand anything from your face. But my request to you is that if you have found it difficult to understand anything that is explained to you now, please feel free to WhatsApp a message to me. I will be more than happy to again come back to you and explain everything that you want to you. So don't hesitate to do that. And also, don't be discouraged. Don't think otherwise. See, this is a situation, or the situation that you are going through at present is not faced just by you. It is faced by everyone around you. I don't have to explain. It's not for the students in Karnataka. It's not just for the students in India. See, the entire student community around the globe are facing the same situation. So you don't have to worry about these things. You should have the courage to face it. But what you are supposed to do now at present is to stay at home. Take care of yourself and also use the time that you have for your studies so that you will keep in touch with your subject. Don't worry. Be happy and always sit with a smile. Don't be stressed at all. I can assure you that you are going to be safe. Thank you very much.